What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, my name is Eric Cartafalsa. I trained myself into the low 90s and now I help pitchers all over the world make the same transformation. And all we really do on this channel is talk about throwing 90 miles per hour. So if you don't want to hear about throwing 90, then click away. Now, I have trained close to 1,000 pitchers at this point, and the number one thing that I see missing is going to be what I cover in this video today. But I don't want to waste any more time here. Let's get right into it. Now, before we go into what the missing link is and what it consists of, we need to be asking ourselves, what is the pitching delivery, okay? From an objective standpoint, the pitching delivery is a short, quick burst of energy, okay? It happens in less than a second, okay? So what we need to realize is that we need to train our bodies in a way that matches what we're going to be doing on the mound. Because, like I said in the intro, I have trained close to 1,000 pitchers at this point, and almost every single guy that comes to me for help are missing the things that I'm about to cover next. Okay, so now since we know what the pitching delivery is from an objective standpoint, we need to talk about the difference between constraints and freedom when it comes to pitcher specific training, because you need both, okay? So in order to actually make serious progress with your delivery and throw harder, we need to be training both of these. So starting with constraints, constraint-led sprints. Now, what does that mean? These aren't just normal sprints where you're getting into a running start and going. These are sprints to where you put your body in a certain position that's abnormal and then sprinting and exploding out of those positions. Because like I just said in the last section, pitching is a short, quick burst of energy, okay? So we need to be matching that with how we train, So teaching the body how to move fast out of certain positions, okay? That is going to build explosiveness, because it doesn't matter if you are 5'10", if you're 6'10", or whatever, okay? You need to be explosive on the mound. Now, some guys are gonna move faster than others. I understand that, but we need to be explosive. And then when it comes to the actual throw itself, we wanna look at constraint drills. So taking the specific mechanical inefficiencies that you have and hammering them until they become second nature, okay, without overthinking them. So what does this mean and how do you do it, okay? If you're watching this, I have no idea what your mechanics look like, so I can't directly tell you your inefficiencies, but if you want to learn what they are and get my one-on-one help, you can click the first link in the description below. Say, for example, your throwing arm is super low at foot strike, right? Your elbow is far below your shoulder. That's an issue, and that's a velocity leak. So taking, for example, an abbreviated arm action drill and hammering that drill until that pattern becomes second nature, okay? And one of the best ways to actually do this in order to get it to translate is doing it on the mound with something called mound blending. Now, basically, that's where you take whatever drill you're working on for your certain mechanical inefficiency, taking that drill, doing it on the mound, and blending that with your actual throw. Because the only way that you're gonna actually learn to move better on the mound is to practice those patterns that you need to ingrain on the mound. And as you do this over time, as you blend the drills with your actual throw, your brain will start to recognize that more efficient pattern as the new norm. And then you can start to do it without second nature. A lot of pitching coaches make the mistake of just doing drill-based throwing off of flat ground and having that be the extent of a pitcher's throwing. And a lot of the time what that does is cause overthinking. And I've experienced this as well as a lot of the athletes that I've coached. So that's constraint drills. And then what we want to be doing as well is med ball training. So this is one of the highest leverage things you can do training wise as a pitcher, because your hip rotation is going to be extremely important for producing power on the mound. And Yes, you can practice hip rotation with certain constraint drills and do them on the mound, but you're not always going to be able to throw a baseball, right? There's only so many throws you can do in a certain day within your individual capacity. So taking med balls and actually doing them, certain drills like the step back, like the shot put, or, split stance rocker shot put, whatever you want to do, and actually hammering those without taxing your arm is going to be super beneficial. And similar to talking about constraint drills, we can do these med ball drills off the mound. So taking them, doing them off the mound, and if you want to blend them with your throw, if you're not tired and if your arm can handle it, then that's even better. So that covers a lot of what I wanted to talk about with constraints. Now we can talk about the freedom side of things, because like I said, you need to have both, okay? You need to have freedom, and we need to train certain things under constraints, okay? So getting into it with freedom, athletic catch. This is the way to let your body express yourself and get out of the Superdome. So what is athletic catch actually? It's basically, throwing in a way that you wouldn't normally throw. So if you're a PO, you're really not playing the infield, you're not playing the outfield. So actually making throws like a shortstop, making throws on the run, Derek Jeter throws, acting like you're throwing a guy out at the plate from the outfield. And what this does is it allows your body to move freely, because when you become a PO, you're not taking ground balls in the infield anymore. You're not doing as many athletic throws, okay? So if we're going to PO, that's completely fine. I was a PO since my freshman year of high school, but what I wasn't doing is athletic catch, which is why I got domed up. So still doing this type of throwing despite not playing the field anymore is going to allow yourself to express your most natural throw. And moving into that a little bit more, we want to make sure we're doing long toss. So long toss is one of the best ways to unlock your most authentic throw, because the task is external and not internal. Okay, so what does this mean? When you are long tossing, you're not really going to be focusing on what your mechanics look or feel like. You're going to be focused on an external task in how far you can throw that baseball. So when your body is focused on an external task, it can start to self-organize, okay? So, like I said, we're not thinking about our mechanics during long toss. Our body is going to take care of it because we have an external task. We're just trying to throw the ball as far as we can. And that's why a lot of guys come to me saying that they can throw the ball 300 plus feet on long toss, but they get to the mound and they're a Superdome mess, okay? And it's because they're not taking that same freedom that they have in long toss and applying it to the mound, all right? So building off of long toss, we can do pull downs as well, because, same thing, it's an external task. We're just trying to throw that baseball as hard as we can. So when you do that, you're not focused on your mechanics. You're not focused on what your throw looks like. You're just focused on throwing the ball as hard as you can. And a lot of the times, guys will find their mechanics able to sync up better and clean themselves up by doing things like long toss and pull downs because of that external task, okay? And pull downs are going to be a great way to build arm speed as well. But moving on. The last point I want to cover in freedom that kind of ties all of this together is think about when you were a kid, okay? When you first started playing baseball. Whenever you got on the mound, you probably weren't thinking about your mechanics. You were just going out and competing. You were trying to get it by the hitter. You were trying to, throw strikes, and you didn't have to think about what that looked like. You were probably just going up there and letting it rip. You probably didn't have an issue throwing strikes because you weren't super domed up about your mechanics. You weren't worrying about what your back leg was doing, what your lead leg was doing. You were just going out there and competing. And that is the state that we need to be in as pitchers. But the problem is, guys have gotten so far down the rabbit hole of what drills to do, what my throwing should look like. And I understand that because I went through the same thing. But we really need to be able to unlock those same levels of freedom that we had as a kid, okay? And that's fully possible if we make our training look something like this, okay? Now, obviously, I don't know you. This is a YouTube video, so I'm not making any claims on gaining velocity. But what I can tell you is that the guys in my program, guys like Nolan, guys like Sebastian, and guys like Cage have gained at least 5 miles per hour by training this way. So if you want to learn directly from me, you can click that first link in the description below, book a call with me. We'll talk about where you're at, where you want to get to, and how I can help.